Hello. So I am back again. Your girl ES is back on Conversations with ES. So today we are going to talk about a very interesting career, project management. And who else can deal with this subject? My beautiful, amiable, loving, she's a wife, she's a mother. Oh, our boys. Mwah. And she is a project manager. Her name is Miss K. So she's going to tell us all about project management, how she started, what prompted her to go into this career, how it's been going, the challenges, and everything you need to know about it. So if you are, watching and you're interested in knowing this subject, knowing this career, you are thinking of going into it, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Miss K,
Hi.
thank you for coming.
Hello, sis.
Oh, you're looking gorgeous.
How can I not have a sister like you?
You're looking gorgeous. Okay.
Thank you, my love.
Now, what did you think you were going to do with your life before project management?
I actually went to uni to study I said project management. I wish. I nearly did go to Westminster to study that for my master's.
Okay.
But I went to uni to study business management, and then after uni, as everyone would do in your final year, trying to find a job, but you don't want to graduate and be part of the unemployment number. So just before graduation, I work at I attended King's, and I worked there as well as a student ambassador. And then whilst doing that, somebody will speak to me about, do you know about the King's graduate program? I was like, King's graduate program. Bearing in mind, I was trying to get into Accenture, the Big Four, PwC, all the big one in Canary Wharf and Venture Street, of course. And then when the person spoke to me about it, I was like, okay, let me apply for it. So I applied for it just before graduation, I believe. And then I got into the graduate program. And then from there, 10 years later, actually it's more than that, it's like 11 years later now.
Wow. Well
I'm
done.
a project
you.
manager. So I didn't actually set out to be a project manager. I just wanted a job after graduating. And I joined a graduate scheme. Then from there, just sort of worked my way from new grad entrance, and now a senior project manager.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was your first exposure to project management? Did you think, is this project management or not?
Not really. So for me, I was fortunate enough that, so the way the graduate scheme worked at the time when I joined anyway, you joined, I think when I started, it was like 18 or 15 months, and then it got converted to 2 years. Yeah. And the structure of it is that you rotate to different aspects. So I work in IT, so you rotate to different aspects within IT. And the premise was that you are to rotate, I think, 3 times before you then go into a permanent role if one comes up. So for me, I was fortunate in that I was placed within the project management team. And within that, we have the project managers. So then when I joined, I think they had a junior project manager, a project manager, a senior project manager. And they were all men, of course. So here I was, the only black person and the only woman. So I was like fulfilling two gaps in one. So I was literally like the only girl in the team and the only black person as well. So I was placed with them to support them. So I think that was where it sort of grew from. So initially I was supporting like the whole team, so the whole project manager, but more as a PO. So from a PO perspective, which is the project management office. So they mostly just sort of set the rules in terms of governance wise, and sort of guide PMs to follow those rules. And then I think within a couple of weeks or month of being there, there was an opportunity to go and support IT infrastructure aspect of the business. And they were like, would you mind going in there? And I was like, yes. I already learned earlier on to say, don't never say no. So sink or swim. I went into that, so I was placed within project management team right from the start. So that
Oh,
was my first experience. And
okay.
then from there, I was like, oh, this is interesting. What
Okay.
is it about? So that's how I got into
Hmm.
project
Oh,
management.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so at what point did you not actually think this is my lane?
So like I said, I joined the graduate scheme from right after graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think it was more like being in the right place at the right time, and also God
Mm.
um setting somebody up in a place that I didn't even know I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember working with this senior project manager, and he's actually a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So I was set to assist as a project support officer
Mm-hmm.
on there, and for some reason he just took to me. I, making sure that I speak to people that were within the project team, which was quite interesting to me. So from then on, I was just became exposed with the project life cycle, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I think what really cemented my desire to continue in that lane was him sort of magnifying every little thing I did. He will send email to my line manager, copy everybody in. Mariam did this. Only meets there, hey, I'm being magnified. What's going on? But I feel like he invested time in me, so he
Okay.
explained to me what project management is all about, what makes a good project, why it's interesting, what different area I might want to go into. And yeah, my interest just became awakened, and that's when I was like, you know what, I'm already naturally good at leading anyway.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh, I like that. A born leader.
so just play into my strength, because
Okay.
when I was in Nigeria, growing up, I was growing up in a way where I had to learn life in a hard way, in terms of like I had to hustle to eat. Like I had to go hawk and stuff. And even that young, I had like 6 people working with me, selling pure water,
Wow.
selling things. And I get my cut from there. So especially if I'm like making the ice or getting the ice at a cheaper rate to get their waters, or working further than everybody else to go and get in the cheaper factory and then selling. So I sort of like grew up with that already, and just that ability to direct people to achieve something. So for me, project management seems like a natural fit for me, and the skill set that God's already blessed me with naturally. So
Okay.
that was what cements my interest in that area.
Oh. Okay, so what was your first real project?
Oh my God. It's my first project, and it's one of my major projects as well. And again, like with the senior PM person, so we were working on the Bush House. So for those that don't know, the Bush House is like the old BBC studio in London, so right at the heart of London. So my university just acquired a lease on that, and he was the lead PM on the project, and he sort of just took me under his wing. So initially, like I said, I was providing project support under him, and sort of just providing support. It can be as little as ordering Wi-Fi here, or being on site to inspect. So it was very like very little stuff here and there, but I just threw myself in and just do it. So he eventually sort of trust me enough to let me sort of track the project budget, especially from the IT aspect. We're talking millions. So that was my first project, and I was in charge of like 6 million, tracking the budget and reporting
Wow.
where we were at, letting him know. Was obviously, like I said, he's a senior project manager,
Yeah.
but I was sort of there to make sure, like, to track it from a detail level in terms of, okay, what are we ordering? How much have we spent this month? What is going on? How much POs is being receipted? Some things like that. And then fortunately for me, Kingston are going through process of reducing their contractors at the time. And also he had a better opportunity come up, but because he sort of poured so much into me, and his positioned me in a place where I became very invested in the project, and I became, I guess, part and parcel of the team. So when he was leaving, it was an opportunity for me to step up as a,
Wow.
temporary project manager. So I went straight from a graduate analyst straight into project manager, acting PM essentially. So of course I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I got to lead one aspect of the project. So at the point when we were doing the refurbishment, we had 3 buildings in one. So I became the lead PM on one of the building, which was also very student focused. And of course, being a recent graduate from the university, I had that knowledge of what it's like to be a student, what sort of thing the pinpoints were as well. So I got to lead the delivery of the Southeast Wing, part of the Bush House refurbishment. So as the PM on that was my first real project where I was responsible for the delivery of the IT infrastructure within that space. So that was my first
Oh wow.
lead project, yeah. And that was literally like
Oh,
my
wow.
first experience of
Okay.
like leading, and I was like, it's finished. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
this was me, yeah.
Okay, what was the one major lesson you learned from that first?
Uh that was a lot. But I think the major one was, you know, like I said initially, I was a woman and a black woman, and IT at that point, especially within infrastructure, so refurbishment space, it was very much male dominated. So I had to make sure I made my voice heard. You know, I had to make sure that I wasn't walked over just because, she would just, you know, take it or whatever. So I think for me, one of the main things was making your presence known in the room, you know, making sure that they know who is the lead person in that area, and being, I guess, position yourself where they have no choice but to be accountable to you in a sense, because we as a project manager, you work with various vendors internally and externally. And for me, in that particular project, we are working with major contractors, you know, we're working with major AV contractors. We're also working with a major refit company as well, called Overbury as well.
Okay.
So for me, again, most of all the team members were men, but I wasn't intimidated by that. I felt comfortable. I mean, you're talking about a girl that used to be men in school in Nigeria. So I was like, there's nobody that's going to like try to push me out of the room. But for me, it was very important to make sure that you come correct and that you represent in the room as well. You can't just be in the room and just listening. You have to be active. You have to actively lead, you know, and stuff. So for me, I think that was one lesson I had to learn straight away within that, in the delivery of that project.
Okay. So, you mentioned that when your boss, when he stepped, you know, you had to take, you know, you had to be the assistant, you know, you had to like on the interim.
Acting PM, yeah. So he, like I said, he's done such a great job in selling me to senior stakeholders within and outside of IT. That by the time he was moving on to better opportunity, he recommended me to take on the delivery of the next one, because there were about 3 PMs. Because we had a PM leading each building, and my building was the last building to be delivered. I mean, not like last, but it was sort of delivered concurrent with another building, but the other building still went live before mine went live. So my bay was the last to go live as a whole. So when he recommended me for it, and because like I said, he's been singing my praises, every little thing he will send it to my line manager, and my line manager will send it to his director. So before we know it, like even my CIO was aware of me and my name.
That's
so
good. That's good.
When they're like, who should lead on, they're like, you know, why not Mariam? So when my line manager speaks to me and he's like, are you interested in, you know, being the acting PM? I was still getting paid graduate money, but I said, you know what, I will take it. It's an opportunity. So so for me, an opportunity came and I grabbed it, and then literally the rest is history.
So did you ever feel, you know, imposter syndrome, thinking
No. I think again, because I feel like the senior PM really did an amazing job in taking his time to really sort of walk me through the whole project life cycles and what breaks or make each life cycle and why they are all important and linked together. And then also I was in Darling. I'll finish work. I'll go, like my university has a library. I'll go there and go and study more on it. And then at that point, I think I had some friends as well that were also like into the same thing. Or even if they were not, they spoke to their friend. And then I was just trying to get as much information as I could. And YouTube was my friend then. I would go on YouTube, like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? What does this mean? What does that mean? And my university, like, we have so many acronyms that every day there's a new one popping up. So I had like and for me, I'm dyslexic as well. So writing things down became jumbled in my brain later on. So I had to find a way to like keep track of all these acronyms. So
Acronyms,
I'll
oh.
not go into meeting and talking about, even I'm thinking, oh my God, what does that mean again? So I was studying like behind during work time when I have a little break, I would go in again and study. And also another thing I forgot to mention as well is in the waiting before I even got the opportunity, there was again, like, because I was on the graduate scheme, I had the opportunity to go and do my Prince 2. So I was like, okay. So I took the opportunity, going in and did my Prince 2, passed that, and I still had the material from there. So even after the exam, I was still going through it to develop my knowledge. So when the opportunity came up, like I was pretty much ready to step in, that kind. So for me, it was a case of, prepping, building in obscurity. So by the time there was that opportunity to step in, I did not feel any imposter syndrome because I felt prepared and ready to do. And I'm never afraid to ask questions. If I don't know it, I don't know it, and I will not. I'm not going to say, I don't know. I'll be like, let me come back to you on that.
That's a good way of
So, and I'm always asking questions. I'm always trying to go in and now we have all these AI things that even making life easier. Back then, there was none of that. So again, I'll speak to other PM. There were these sort of things that's coming up. What are your thoughts? How do I approach this? Just constantly building my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you have an event company, right? So this project management, was it something that you not thought yourself, I'm really good at this. I need to have this. Because, I need to start an event, a business on this.
Do you know what? Like I said initially, when I was at uni, I was a studio ambassador. And thank God blessed me with a loud voice. And I love talking. And when I love something, I'm passionate about something, I can talk you to death on it. So that has sort of already built my confidence and my ability to speak in public, to address big crowd, to control big crowds and stuff. So if the Every Event, which is our event planning company, is actually born by me and two other of my friends who I've known for ages. In fact, I met for one of my friends, I think at university on my third year, I actually enrolled her, and now the only people like go get her number. She was also coming to get my number, and then that's how we became friends. So we've been friends for years. So she was when I was talking about why not just start an event company? What do I think? So I was like, that sounds like fun because individually we all run events separately. My project management scale, I guess for me, the aspect of budget control, budget management, and that aspect really, comes in because when we meet with clients, I'm sort of the one that take control of that aspect because I don't want to be delivering something that the client will come back and say, I wanted to spend 20K and I'm spending 500 or whatever. So for me, it's something that I've built from my career, being that tight control over my budget and being accountable and responsible for it. So that aspect really does work well in our event planning. But I think for most it's around, I think it's more around the ability to control big crowds as well. For us, that is one of the biggest aspects, that stakeholder management, across, because you also, as an event planner, you work with so many different vendors as well. So you need to be able to not just communicate, but be able to work with them while still making sure you maintain control or the overall control of the event success. You're responsible for it. So I think it's more using my life skills, my career skills, and then merging all of that to run event service. So when she brought up the idea, I was like, I'm down for it. So and our other friends said, I'm down for it. So the three of us,
wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So like any career, what are the common project management tools would have common mistakes? What are they?
So I guess for a project manager, a lot of there are three things you also want to control at all point. And you also want to control the cost. You don't want to be delivering a project that is always over budget. But also in reverse of that, you don't want to deliver a project that is under budget, but you don't release the budget when it's needed. Finance work on timeline. There's no point, for example, you're running under a budget of maybe 500K and you don't say nothing until the financial period, then that money could have been used to somewhere else. So it's just as important as control overspend as it is important to control underspend as well. And of course, the quality and time as well. And depending on the methodology you're using, you're either controlling the budget as a key factor or you're controlling the time as a key factor. So if you work in a traditional Prince methodology, which is a waterfall, then you are really controlling the time, the costing of things, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to overrun? And also the timing as well. Is there going to be delay? Can we throw more money to control those delays? So those two things become your push and pull. Whereas if you're working with, let's say, for example, Agile, then it changes slightly where quality becomes your control mechanism, but not to deplete what you're delivering, but rather to prioritize what is most important to not just the client but the end users. So it becomes a case of, okay, if your cost is not movable and your time is not movable, then out of this 10 list of priority, what is the most urgent one? It could be 3 that. So for example, you want to have a teaching space, having a teaching space with a working IT infrastructure is important, but having a teaching space with a working IT infrastructure that can then connect people synchronously might not be as important. So you have to then start to negotiate those things and start to look at, okay, out of those things, what can we not do with that? Then you start to get things like MVP, which is the most valuable product. Okay. So you start to negotiate that, and that becomes your control to deliver on time within budget, but still delivering value. Whereas for Prince, they just do all the planning in advance. And then at the end, like I remember when COVID happened and so many projects had to be scrapped, stopped, or some just carry on going. At the end of it becomes impractical or not as useful. So that is why the methodology you use is very important. And not one single methodology will not work for all type of products. Okay. So as a project manager, you are to also guide the organization as well in those conversations, talking maybe some aspect might be useful for one, some aspect might not. So it's not so much as one mistake to avoid or one mistake reinterpret. It's about understanding what a project is, understanding what your customers need, and then working with those things to deliver a product that is not just functional but fit for purpose. Because something might be functional pre-COVID, but post-COVID it's not fit for purpose. So it's one of those things where you have to understand your client, and you have to also understand the environment within which they operate, so that you're delivering product that is useful.
Okay, so if you could go back to the beginning of your career, what would you do differently?
Ask for more money when they ask me to become an actor. And then that was the thing, I should have asked, like, how long would I do this for? Because I was just like, opportunity become it. Wow. So I was just like, just take it. So if I could go back and change something, I'd probably be like, okay, so have it in writing. How long would I need to be acting for? Okay. And then when would I expect my salary to reflect the work that I'm doing? Okay. But also as well, like I said, I started the graduate program. I was supposed to rotate, but there was opportunities and people love me now, I guess, that sort of just stuck into one. So I guess I could have, be more selfish to myself and explore the full options that are available. Okay. But I work with various, aspects of it, people from various aspects of the business, from BA to tester, to what's it called? Even more other graduates, even part of the program as well. With even architectures as well. So there are like so many different people you still get to work with that. Over time, you have no choice but to become familiar with the things that they do for you within your project. And in fact, it makes you a better PM to know what they do. So when they're not doing it, something is not going right. So I think for me, if I were to go back, is maybe take more chances and explore the other areas a little bit more, just to get that experience rather than just, zoning into one thing just because you like it. I think that is probably something I'd rather, and it's something I tell new grad these days that, what, in as much as it's important to take, hold of any opportunity that come your way, also explore as well, because most of the time, I mean, I'm fortunate to still be at the same place, but most of the time you come to the end of your graduate and there are no job available for you to apply to. So you have to go outside. And project management is already, for me, I feel like it's a well-saturated community that it might not be as easy when you're
Yes,
competing
it
with
is,
so many other
yeah.
people. But
Yeah.
if you're like, okay, going to BA, for example, that's another skill set you can use. If you are to go into testing, that's another skill
That's
set that you can
use.
use. So
Oh,
I
wow.
would say that if there's one thing I'd change, is to go back and explore all these other areas that were available to me
Okay.
during my graduate program and take advantage of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I want to finish this sentence.
Okay.
Project management has taught me dash dash dash. dash.
Oh, project management has taught me resilience, especially when you're working with external parties.
Good.
But it has also allowed me to hone my skill set in a very special way. For me, for example, one thing that I feel that really set me apart within my place of work right now is my ability to manage stakeholders. And also knowing politics of the organization we work with, not just knowing it, understanding it, and leveraging it. A lot of people think project management doesn't. It does. A lot of the time, you're dealing with a lot of political BS, and you need to be able to play the game, for the betterment of your project. So for me, I would say project management has definitely taught me, resilience, and also the ability as well to, hone in, develop a skill set that is in demand, because it can be transferable to anything, anywhere, So for me, I think, for me, that is what
Okay.
it's taught me.
Oh, thank you so much. You see, we've actually learned one or two things from from what she has said about project manager, the career, how she started, why she's in it. Even the way she was talking, you could tell that she's passionate about it. And yes, and if you have any more questions about it, please, you could drop them down in the comment, and I will definitely get her to answer all of your questions. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.